In this video, we're continuing with section 12.1, working with the trig ratios, and we're using our trig ratios now to help us solve for different parts of our triangle. So let's take a look at this first equation here. I have the sine of 40 degrees is equal to x over 18. And I know that the sine function is the opposite side over the hypotenuse. So a triangle that this may have come from, here's my right triangle. I'm going to put my 40 degrees here. I could have put it up in the other acute angle at the top, but we'll put it over here. So I'm standing over here, and my opposite side is going to get an x, and my hypotenuse is going to get an 18. So this is a triangle that this proportion could have come from, and we notice here that we are solving for a side. So solving equation to find a missing side. Alright, so what's the difference between the equations we just worked with and the one we are about to work with below? So here I have the cosine of theta. Now this variable theta here, theta is a variable like x, like x or y or any other variables that we use, that is usually used for angles. So we like to use some of the Greek letters for angles that we don't know. Instead of saying cosine of x, we would just say cosine of theta. Again, it really doesn't matter what variable you use, but as you continue in your math career, you're going to have theta as an angle quite often. Alright, so what's the difference about this equation and this equation up here? Well, up here I was looking for a missing side. Over here I'm looking for a missing angle. Alright, so here solve this equation to find a missing angle. Alright, so we're looking for theta. Alright, we'll learn how to do that. So let's do a quick flashback. What are inverse operations? How do you use them to solve an equation? So some inverse operations: add and subtract. Those are inverse operations. One undoes the other. And we also had multiplication and division, or multiply and divide. Those are inverse operations. And in the last chapter we worked with square and square roots. Those are also inverse operations. They undo each other. So how to use them to solve an equation? Well, they undo each other. Alright, so when we're solving a simple equation, if we have 3x equals 15, and we want to undo this multiplication, we undo it with division. And we would just get x is equal to 5. So we're going to have to figure out how to undo these trig functions. So let's take a look at the inverse trig functions. So it really isn't any fancier than adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, square, and square root. So the inverse operation for sine is sine inverse. Alright, and the way that we're going to show this is we're going to write sine to the negative 1. This negative 1 we say sine inverse. So we'll have the sine inverse of something, and that will undo a sine. Or we'll have cosine inverse. Again, we write this as cosine to the negative 1 of some expression, and we'll look at that in the next video. Or you probably guessed it, tangent inverse, which we will write as tan to the -1. Again, we say tan inverse, so get used to that. And this is how we're going to undo or get rid of cosines to solve for angles, sines, cosines, and tangents to solve for angles. Alright, so I know this may seem a bit confusing right now, but just hang in there, and in the next couple of videos we'll go through some examples, and you'll see it's really not that complicated. So get help if you need it, and we'll see you in the next video.